Brazil was one of the countries that could go through 2008 without a huge disturbance as you had in Europe or US. One of the reasons of that, I think we were growing fast. Brazil had a long history of low growth after 1980s. So 2000 were a good time in Brazil because of growth. And when there was a sudden stop in the international financial system, there was a shock in the Brazilian economy. The interesting thing is there were investors and consumers wanting to spend, and there were capacity of production on the other side, but banks got too scared to let the money flow. So the interesting thing in Brazil is that we have 3 large state-owned banks, 2 commercials, 1 development bank, and we joined and started to bridge the differences or the holes that the private sector, private banks could not fill at that time, and it worked perfectly. I mean, consumption didn't go down and investment came back to growth very fast. So in 2 years, Brazil was back to 7% growth at that time. BNDES was very important because it has a large role in the Brazilian economy. It holds 20% of all the banking credits in the market, and it has half of that money goes to small and medium companies, particularly if they are going to buy Brazilian equipment and machinery. The most important of that is trucks and buses. So we have a large industry in Brazil on those sectors, and they are basically BNDES and the Brazilian the funds from BNDES are one of their main competitive advantages they have against foreigners. Also, BNDES funds are cheaper than market funds. The reason why is because we use funds that are available in the social security system, and we use those funds to increase employment. This makes this system a little bit more stable than the market system, where it's more related to the rates charged by the banks and the central bank. It's much more, it goes more up and down, and our rates are more stable and usually lower than the one charged in the market. Also, they are long-term. So, in the Brazilian system, BNDES has a very important role in the long-term market. For corporations, housing is a different system, and private market and capital market has grown in Brazil in 2000 after stabilization, but still very smaller. Most of it is run by private banks that use it for reasons of arbitrage, fiscal arbitrage or regulatory arbitrage, but a small part is growing fast. There is a new market for rich people, investors, pension funds, institutional investors that be working with companies that are building a real market, although it's very small. We expect in the future, that's one of the reasons of our paper, that says there is a life cycle. When we look at the experiences of other countries, is that there is a life cycle of those national development banks. We expect the private market and the capital markets to increase their role in the future, but we think that, as in other countries, a national development bank probably will will be less important, but will have different roles that the institution will play in the economy in the long term.